Senator Mackenzie.
Thank you. 35, still sitting with Minister King's office. Well done, Department, getting those answered. Up sitting there. Senator Chisholm, any reason why Minister King is disrespecting the Senate again?
I don't think Minister King disrespects the Senate at all, Senator Mackenzie.
So what's your answer on behalf of the Minister for 35 of the Quans? I'm sure the Department got them up in plenty of time for them sitting in her in-tray.
I think the Department talked through the shortened timeline, and I'm sure the Minister's office is working diligently through them.
Right. Minister's office that is listening, please, we would love those by 4 o'clock this afternoon. If at all possible, you could get your boss to look at them while she may be doing chamber duty today. My questions go to Budget Paper 4, where we see agency resourcing sees an additional $36 million or 6% increase in the budget. I want to understand what unbudgeted expenditure compromises that additional $36 million.
So the $36 million relates to the entirety of the department, including portfolios covered by the Environment and Communications Committee. So I'll say that by way of context.
Thank you.
That includes a significant amount of money in the arts portfolio under our outcome 6.
That might explain it.
Good morning, Senator. Char Jordanowski, First Assistant Secretary. If I may ask, what page reference are you referring to for budget paper?
Page 82.
82.
Budget paper 4.
Thank you.
And it's specifically outcome 2 and outcome 3 of what I'm looking at. But anyway, what's the unbudgeted expenditure for the additional $36 million in 25-26?
Excuse me, Senator. Okay, page 82. I just see the appropriations tables. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. The agency resourcing 25-26 estimated actual. In 24-25, the Department appropriation under Appropriations Bill number 1 was $553.9 million. In 25-26, the budget papers recorded an estimated outcome of $590.1. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the $36 million, 6% increase, I want to understand what that unbudgeted expenditure comprised of.
So, Senator, with regards to that question, I can speak to the amount of funding that we've received in this year's budget. But in terms of that additional expenditure, I know that without me going in giving you the wrong information, can I just take that one on notice? I apologise.
Well, Chair, given taking on notice, we've only got 45 minutes for corporate, and I'm asking it's a 6% increase in expenditure, and I'm wanting to understand the details of that unbudgeted expenditure. And I'm happy to take it on notice if I get the answer back, because I've only got 45 minutes with corporate.
Yeah, no, I can speak to, because I think to sort of unpack that number, I can speak to the amount of appropriation we received this year, which is actually a reduction in a departmental appropriation. So I'm happy for you to come back with the detail on what that was. I want to understand if the department obtained approval from the Finance Minister to
increase, or your increased expenditure by 36, but you're saying your appropriation was actually decreased?
Yeah, our appropriation did decrease, Senator. So in relation to our appropriation at the pays, we had a departmental appropriation of $567 million. Our departmental appropriation at the budget, and this is on page 27 of our PBS, is $511. So that is a reduction of $56 million for this financial year, or the upcoming financial year, 25-26.
How much of the unbudgeted expenditure, the $36 million, is in response to new decisions of government?
So in the opening, I was just reflecting. I know I probably won't answer it that way because I could be wrong, because I know we did receive additional administered funding for our new measures, and that was around the $36 million mark over the forward estimate. So that could possibly be the answer, but let me take that on notice, Senator, and I'll get that breakdown.
So you had a blowout last year and a cut this year. Is that is that the summary?
So each year, like as part of this year's budget, our appropriations are reviewed as part of the government decision-making process, and for this year there was a reduction of $56 million in our departmental appropriation, and that related to one-off measures, that also related to terminating measures and measures where there were reductions in funding in the forward estimates.
What were the terminating measures specifically?
I don't have that exact breakdown, Senator. I apologise.
It would relate to things like grants programs, which are coming to an end. So, for instance, time-limited program like the Housing Support Fund, which we've talked about previously. Obviously, we've been given additional funding for the management of the REC's voluntary administration. That will either come to an end or need to be refreshed at some point in the next financial year. So, as Ms Jordanowski has explained, there are a number of time-limited programs. And those
I understand what a terminating measure is, Secretary. I was hoping I could get a list of them instead of a general definition.
Okay, well, I've given you a couple of examples there.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll get that to you, Senator.
Thank you. So in terms of the cut for outcome 2, the $38 million cut, what specifically comprises that?
So for outcome 2... Okay. So for outcome 2, Senator, we did get, as part of the reduction in measures that are either time-limited or terminating, so that attributed to the Rex Airline measure that the Secretary mentioned. There's also funding that was ending or ceased to ending in relation to the new vehicle efficiency standard and the maritime single window and the National Freight Data Hub. So all of that attributes to the reduction.
So, that $38 million, those 3 items?
Those 3 relate to the terminating measures for outcome 2.
Well, what are the... I wanted to understand the $38 million cut across outcome 2. Is that the cut only relates to terminating measures?
Those are the terminating measures.
I understand that. What does the $38 million cut to outcome 2 include?
Senator,
it includes terminating measures, which you've outlined 3 of them. Anything else?
Senator Marie Bridger, Chief Operating Officer. There could be also some funding profiles decreasing as well as terminating measures. So that could also factor into that. So we could, as well as tracking the terminating measures, try and get to you the reduction across those.
I don't just want to know the terminating measures. Mine was a general question about the cut.
When you say the cut, it's the terminating measures by definition apply to activities
the $38 million. The $38 million
will be
cut to outcome 2 in the departmental appropriation. That's what I understand. What makes up that $38 million?
Okay, but you will know that there are multiple measures in play at any given time which fluctuate over time. So it may be it will be the net figure of things tapering, things ramping up, measures, terminating measures kicking into place. So
and
it
I
will be
was
quite
hoping to get
complicated
some
story.
of that detail, Secretary, not a general.
Well, we've
cuts
just given
include profiling changes
Senator,
and terminating measures.
We've just given you 3 terminating measures.
Yep.
We will try and get you the additional information, but it may not be in a format which is readily presentable, but we'll do our best.
Well then, given unable to answer about outcome 2, what about the $21 million cut to departmental appropriation for outcome 3?
So similarly, Senator, in relation to the measures, and I can say that there's been reducing funding for the Growing Regions Growing Regions program. There's also a reduction in funding in Thriving Suburbs, and in relation to the housing support program as well, that is ending or terminating at the end of this financial year.
We talked in a previous hearing around the fact that grants programs ramp up and down. You'll be familiar with that, but also the new federal funding agreement arrangements which we've put in place. And you made the point correctly that you would expect those resources to decline as those programs move through.
So I guess we've talked about terminating programs, the REX issue, which will have to seek more funding should it extend into next financial year. How many staff has the department been required to cut, or will be required to cut, in 25-26 as a result of these decreases to your appropriations?
So the ASL headline reduction associated with the budget is 47. However, ASL is only one measure, so and it's a fairly technical measure. We've just been in receipt of the budget in the last 48 hours, so we'll be working with our team to identify how we live within our means and what the balance will be of ASL on the one hand and non-staff expenditure on the other, and how we plan our budget for the coming year.
So 47 staff next year compared to this year. In which divisions of the department, and how many staff will be cut next year?
Well, it's about the ASL tied to the terminating that we've just described. So the broad distribution of staffing will correspond to the funding coming off that we've just described. But we're yet to work through that detail, and that will in part be a matter of what the priorities are for whoever is the government in the next financial year, and obviously we need to be cognizant of that.
Are any of the staff that will be cut in frontline services, engaging with stakeholders in the transport industry, or...?
No, so the terminating measures that we've just described, which were always time limited and planned to be such, are things like grants programs, which are clearly not frontline delivery in that sense. But other grants programs may ramp up, and that will be a matter for future governments to determine.
But these staff are the ones engaging in local councils, community groups on a regular basis, or are you ruling out those particular staff being part of the cuts?
No, so this is about our managing within our budget, and we had a long discussion in the last hearing around the planned overspend that we had in the last financial year. We have an attrition rate which again has been the subject of considerable commentary in this committee, which has fallen over time, I'm glad to say, from 22% down to nearer 12%, and we routinely manage the fact that some measures come off, some measures come up. So this is not about significant staff cuts. This is just about the fact that there are ebbs and flows within our budget, and we manage that in the usual way.
Now, you just said earlier one of the areas looking at cuts was the vehicle emission standard area. The budget seems very empty on a lot of things, but particularly around transport, and yet there's still a cut to this outcome. Can you give the transport sector more broadly confidence that the department will maintain its expertise, such as it is in the transport sector, and those staff won't be part of the cuts?
It depends who's in government, obviously. We've heard a lot about very significant reductions in public service staffing.
Well, this is a decision of this government,
so we're talking about this
right?
government.
This government has cut your appropriation, which will be seeing staff cuts.
We had a very long discussion last time around the 560 additional ASL that have been added to the department since 2022, and there was a lot of critical commentary around additional money going to bureaucrats. Sometimes measures are funded by the government. That's been the case over the last 3 years as they've implemented initiatives like Housing Support Fund, like New Vehicle Efficiency Standard. Those reach a point where the legislation being on the statute book, that transitions to a new set of measures. So this is the normal ebbs and flows. This is not about some material overall reduction in the government's commitment to transport. Rather, it's just about the small fluctuations that occur in resourcing from time to time within individual outcomes.
Secretary, when the department or the minister receives correspondence from state governments, does it go to you or to your EA, or is there it goes to the minister's office down?
When the department receives it, or when the minister's office?
When the minister's office. Who would normally be written to or CC'd into a treasurer or a transport minister's correspondence with the federal government?
It would depend. So there may be correspondence that takes place at a political level that's never presented to the department that we don't see. Obviously, state governments, I exchange information with my counterparts at state and territory level on a day-to-day basis. In the normal course of events, if the correspondence related to the functioning of the department or the budgets that it administers, the minister would usually choose to refer that to the department for advice.
Okay. Has the minister received a letter from Rita Safiotti in Western Australia raising her concerns, rightfully, about the appalling budget appropriations for Western Australian infrastructure in the last week?
That is under outcome 1. I'm not aware of any correspondence from Minister Safiotti, but we can check that.
Yeah, okay.
See if it's been referred to the
I will be
department.
addressing that in outcome 1. I just want to go to the CFMEU's involvement in public infrastructure, and I'd like to table, Chair, correspondence between the Minister and I for consideration by the committee. And this is correspondence I'm absolutely confident the department's aware of, because the Minister replied to my letter last year raising concerns about Commonwealth taxpayers' money being funnelled to organised crime and militant unionists on work sites, who we now see have been kicking women in the process. And the Minister replied, as you would know, that she's in regular contact with her counterparts and she's directed them to let her know of any concerns. That was on the 8th. The 9th of the 8th was her reply to me. We have since then seen horrific additional acts of violence on work sites, particularly in projects related to the big build in Victoria. And I've again written to the Minister. This letter is being tabled as soon as the Chair... Do we need to ask for it to be tabled?
I think I need to go through it, Senator. I think there's a few things there to look at first. To have it just...
I'm seeking to table the letters.
Yeah, but I know you
and I've got copies.
But there are 3 or 4 letters. I think there's 3 or 4 letters. I can't make the decision in 10 seconds. I'm listening intently.
I'm happy to suspend and to have a meeting to table them.
Happy to suspend?
Well, I just want to table the letters, Chair, and I'm wondering what the hold-up is.
Senator, I'll tell you what the hold-up is. You've just dropped it on us now with no forewarning, and that's fine. You can do that. I can't sit here and listen to what's going on here.
They're my letters. I'm tabling them.
Yeah, but
I'm the holder of the letters.
I want to have a read of them, Senator, which I have the right to do.
Well, how can I ask the questions I need to ask of the department on the letter they've drafted for the Minister?
Well, that's fine. If you want to suspend while I read it,
as long as we can continue questioning in the time frame. We've got 20 minutes left.
You've got 20 minutes left. That's correct.
So I would like to table the letters.
Okay, but I'm going to have a read of them first, so you can continue on while I have a read.
This is my only line of questioning.
Okay. These are in order. Okay.
I think you can ask the question while he reads the letter. No, he said he can't. He can't.
No, I can't do 2 things at once, listen and read, see? So I have to do one of the other. And that's not a revelation, for those who know me.
Dogs.
Friday night.
This one and this one. That's okay.
My grandson, he's watching this.
Sorry?
High this week.
Feet up.
Clock starts the season already on highs.
You've got a tough game next week, isn't it?
I want to play Carlton next week. Collingwood, of course. Doesn't matter. A win's a win.
I just heard you say, look at my grandson.
I see it. I'm multitasking. You hit me.
I know.
I'm all ears, Carol. All yours, mate. They're busy people. They're sitting today. I don't know. They say that about us too. Yeah, exactly. That was my reaction.
This is a double. That's a double up.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good to go.
Thank you. So for you tabled? I've got
Yes, good
copies
to
to
go.
be
We'll share that with
circulated,
the rest of the
please, and
committee.
uploaded.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you. As you can see by the letters, I want to understand the Minister responded to my concern saying that the Australian Government has an extensive systems and procedures in place, that there were new requirements on states and territories as part of the Commonwealth Funding Agreement, and that the Minister had written to her state and territory counterparts conveying that the behaviour of the divisions of the CFMEU following the first media reports last year were unacceptable. And my question, I guess, Mr Betts, on behalf of the department, who will be overseeing the Minister's directions, have any of these measures outlined in her response led to safer work sites where CFMEU members are present?
Ms Hall may want to comment on this. She's been in discussions with the jurisdictions in recent times. You're right to say the Minister first wrote to her state and territory counterparts back in July 2024 requiring them to report any improper or criminal conduct through to the relevant regulator. It's worth saying our locus relates to projects which are co-funded by the Commonwealth Government, not all projects within the Victorian Big Build, for instance. That was mirrored by a letter from the Minister and the Minister for Finance to chairs of our government business enterprises on the 12th of August. As you all know, on the 23rd of August, the Attorney-General took the decision to place the CFMEU and its federally registered branches into administration. During the second half of 2024, the new federal funding agreement schedule came into effect, signed progressively by the jurisdictions, which in clauses 11D to 11F embeds the requirements in that federal funding agreement for jurisdictions to ensure compliance with all relevant state and federal legislation, including in relation
I've got
to
the letter,
relations.
Mr Betts, and I've had it since she wrote it, since you drafted it for her. So, my question is, and was, not running through what is effectively in the letter I've just tabled. My question is, has it led to safer work sites? Yes or no? Clearly not, from the latest 60 Minutes reports.
Well, no jurisdiction, as far as I'm aware, has reported to us or reported to the relevant regulator any of the behaviour which falls within the definition. So they've ignored the Minister's direction? No, quite the contrary. In fact, the jurisdictions are actively working to make sure that there are reporting arrangements in place, not just to us and to relevant regulators like the Fair Work Ombudsman, but that cascades through the contracting chain and places obligations on their subcontractors. And to show the level of vigilance, again, on the following recent media coverage on the 20th of March, the Minister wrote again to the Victorian Minister seeking a renewed assurance that Australian government funds have not been used to provide corrupting benefits. That's a quote. And I've written in similar terms to my state and territory counterparts as recently as Monday. So the federal government is bearing down heavily on this. We are reliant, obviously, on a state...
But Mr Betts, sorry, and I have got limited time, thanks to a few reasons, but given the revelations that bikie gangs are running protection rackets through publicly funded infrastructure projects, some of them funded by jointly with the Commonwealth, collecting 3, 5, even 10K a week just for keeping the peace, you've written letters, the Minister's written letters, but this behaviour still keeps going, and your evidence to me today, and it's backed up by Senator Wong yesterday in question time, the states aren't reporting any negative behaviour to you or any corrupting behaviour that's still occurring on publicly funded infrastructure sites, are they?
We haven't had any such reports yet, which is why we've written to them to remind them of their obligations.
Again.
And written when? I was about to tell you when.
Premier.
I was about to tell you when you interrupted me.
No, the date doesn't concern me, because you can write all the letters you like, Mr Betts. Minister King can, speak to Jacinta Allen at some future caucus meeting. The fact is, she's not reporting the problems through the chain. Your minister is saying, tell me what's going on, give me assurance and guarantee, and she's not getting a response back. Now, writing more letters is not going to solve the problem, Mr Betts, is it?
Jessica Hall, Deputy Secretary. We've been advised by the Victorian Government that the Victorian Premier has announced that the Victorian Police has expanded its dedicated task force to investigate the allegations.
Yes, that was very embarrassing for the Premier.
The Victorian Infrastructure Delivery Authority, VIDA, will support the Victoria Police and Operation Hawk to help crack down on any criminal and illegal behaviour. and if the union administrator uncovers evidence of criminal or corrupt behaviour, it has been referred to the
Ms Hall,
Victorian
please.
Police as well.
I'm not
Sorry,
going
Ms
to
Hall, Ms Hall.
filibustering from the department.
Order,
is not going to be
Senator, just resume your seat. I read in to the opening statement about the behaviour in this place. I intend to enforce those rules today, and I would urge everyone in the room, when a question is asked and an answer given, that we respectfully wait till the question is finished being asked and the answer being given. If we get into a screaming match or shouting over each other, I will call for a suspension and I will seek guidance from the clerk.
Excellent. The protection racket
sorry, Ms Hall
being
was
run-
Ms Hall was Ms Hall was answering your question.
No,
Ms Hall, you
Chair,
will finish.
how?
Ms Hall, you will finish. You cut her off. Push
When
me.
does filibustering become filibustering?
Push me, and I will not tolerate any more.
No,
Ms Hall.
I've been on the receiving end of your intolerance for many years.
You want to have a private hearing? We will now suspend the hearing, and we will call the clerk up. I couldn't be any
That's a
fairer.
big protection racket for the CFMEU. You don't want the question.